Episodes with Brews on a Porch presents to you another edition of Strange Brews, Conspiracies, Murder, Ghost Stories, Aliens. They're all coming to get you, my dears.
Craft Brews and Casual Conversations, joined with me. As is tradition, Todd is always on the scary, the October episodes.
It's been a couple of times now, hasn't it?
I think this is your fourth time?
Third or fourth year, I think.
Yep.
Wow.
And then Sandy joins us as well from the Sandy and Toddcast. As Sandy is also a creepy person or a creepy interested person.
I really tried, Drew.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can hold up to Todd's standards, but, I give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, as you said before, you didn't pretty yourself up, so your appearance is
Not at
terrifying
all.
tonight.
And
Just kidding.
As soon as she came in the room tonight, I have to mention that we're also recording it for our podcast, but as soon as she joined us on the Zoom system that we've got going on, Drew goes, ooh, yikes, kind of thing. And that was perfect. It was perfect timing.
I was like, you know what? I don't even care at this point. I was lied to. I was misled. That's fine. I just wanted to talk to you, Drew, anyway.
Thank you. You look wonderful as always, so just so you know.
Thanks.
We're going to get into the beer real quick that I'm drinking. So it is October. It is, the year of spooky stuff or the time of spooky stuff. But it's also some German heritage recognition as well. So why not celebrate with some Oktoberfest beer from Acre Beer Company. It is from Chicago, Illinois. And this is called Lagertown. It says, take a trip to Oktoberfest and hang out in Lagertown. A rich multi-Oktoberfest experience awaits you. This marks Lagertown's maiden voyage into bottles in an attempt to capture the sturdy amber frame. But mine came in a can, so I don't know what's going on there. But
so what do you think of it? Is it good?
I haven't had it yet. Let me try it real quick.
All right.
It looks good just by the look of it.
Yeah, it tastes like October. Yeah, it's got that rich maltiness to it. It's just like kind of your standard lager or that you would that you might have on any day. It's pretty good though. It's got a little bit of bitterness to it. Let's see. The alcohol content is 5.8, so pretty light. It says 0 on the IBUs, but it does have some bitterness to it, so I wouldn't say it's not bitter at all. It does have a little bit of bitterness to it, though. But it is
good. What
good.
did we have that one year? Was like something blood red or something like
It's
that.
like, yeah, Johnny Blood something. That was
That's
from a
right.
brewery in Green Bay.
I think I had two that night when we were sitting in the basement of the radio station doing this podcast, and I think I was pretty buzzed by the time we were done with it. So.
Probably. Yeah, that was a fun time. That was the first time you were on the show. We hung out in a quote-unquote haunted basement. Do you guys hear that buzzing at all? Or is it just me?
I'm not hearing it.
I don't hear anything.
Okay. Maybe it's just
What does it sound like?
It just sounds like... I don't
Maybe
know.
that's aliens.
Could be. I hope so. But yeah, so we hung out in the basement, and then I think one of the other times you talked to us about how you get a paranormal investigation, like the equipment and all that stuff. So, and then you two were on previously just shooting the breeze. So
Yeah, on a drunken fest.
We
at
were
some
all
point.
drunk. We were all drunk that night. That was that. I remember half of that conversation we had. We were having a ball, though. We were having
It
a
was
great
fun.
time.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was a lot of fun.
So now I want to have you on because in October we always talk paranormal. We talk, strange brew episodes. Last week, Chris and I discussed weird experiences that pregnant people have, and there was some weird stuff on it. But Todd, I know you declare yourself as an empath. I know Sandy, you do too.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, Sandy, you say you're fluorescent or clairvoyant or whatever it is.
She's fluorescent.
only on Tuesdays, Drew. Only for you and my fluorescent. Any other time, I might have some different abilities. But I tend to. I guess I have medium type of abilities, psychic medium abilities. I can. Things come to me. I get visions. Names will come to me. I'll connect with people before an investigation. Connect with places, different things like that. I sort of just know things, which is kind of strange. I know I can touch things and feel energy. I can tell if there's male or female energy in a room. When I was visiting Todd in Oshkosh a few weeks ago, we went to the Grand Opera House and I touched the Opera House and it literally was like kind of vibrating underneath my hands, which was kind of neat.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I've never had an experience like that. What I guess what was your first encounter with it? How did you know like something was up, and what did you first think of it?
Well, as far as I guess I had it my whole life. I just kind of didn't realize what it was. A lot of people go through that, and now that I'm older, I've really only, I guess, figured it out in the past maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe even a little bit less than that. But I've always had like weird experiences, just didn't chalk them up to this. I kind of thought maybe I was just depressed or like really strange, which I am really strange at times. Todd will tell you that. But I think one of the biggest ones that I ever had was back in 2008. My husband Dave and I went to Washington, D.C., and we went to the Holocaust Museum. And we got onto one of the floors. It's like 5 floors. This museum is huge. And we sort of walked through a door, and I didn't realize it at the time, but we walked into a train car, an actual train car that went to, I think it was Auschwitz concentration camp. And as soon as I stepped inside of it, I felt like this huge weight was on my chest and I couldn't breathe very good. And I got very dizzy, and I went through it and went to the other side of it and had to sit down and kind of collect myself. It was really tough. And what was really hard about it was there were shoes and suitcases that were actually from concentration camps all around the car. And it wasn't until I thought I just didn't feel well. It wasn't until I walked away and got to the next floor that I actually started to feel better. So that was one of the big things in my life that kind of happened that made me realize that maybe something weird was going on. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Todd, I guess describe yourself and your empathic abilities. You know, a lot of people say they lack empathy, and that's a quality that you don't seem to lack.
Well, we've had this discussion on our podcast too. What is empathy and what is being an empath? Having empathy is caring about other people and things like that. Empath is a little different in that when you have empathy for someone, you can understand what that person's going through, or at least feel for them. So and Sandy had a great example of this. If someone lost their pet, if you've ever lost a pet in your life, you understand the sadness that comes along with it. If you're using empathy, or you're having empathy for that person, you understand what that's like. To be an empath, however, is when you actually can sense and feel that person's energy and their sadness and their sorrow, or their happiness and their joy, when it actually comes to you. And that's the big difference to me. It's like being able to understand what that person's going through, or actually going through what that person's going through. That, to me, that's the difference between empathy and being an empath.
You sort of take it on as your own a lot of times. And, I can relate. If you lose your pet, I can relate to you because I have empathy for you and what you're going through. And it may have happened to me at one point in time. But to actually take on those feelings of grief and depression is a completely different thing.
Okay. So how does that work with your paranormal investigations? Do you feel closer to, the spirits or whatever that you may be encountering, or whatever energy that you may be encountering? Do you feel like beneficial to have this ability, or do you see can it be a burden?
Well, I certainly think it can be. I've probably spent more time in my life trying to block those things so that I don't have to deal with it. My situation is that I've yet to learn how to decipher whether or not it's my feelings and my emotions that I'm dealing with, or if it's somebody else's. And so I haven't been able to actually figure that out. So for me, when it comes to investigations, I don't know if it necessarily helps the investigation. However, it does give you a sense of what you're dealing with. And what I mean by that is you can go into a location. Some investigators will walk in and just throw everything out there and just go to town. And I'm able to kind of walk into a situation and take a few moments by myself to kind of read the room. What may be going on here? What am I feeling? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think in that regard, it's easier for me to go in and kind of read the room before you start asking questions, before you start pulling out equipment, before you even start the investigation at all.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more of a burden in my regular everyday life than it is during investigations. I sort of am what they call clairsentient as well, and that kind of goes hand in
So not the
hand with
fluorescent, you're clairsentient? Is
not
that what it is? Okay.
usually not at the investigations. I'm not fluorescent. I could be. You never know. But that sort of goes hand in hand with being an empath, and what that means is that you can feel the emotions of the energy around you.
Sure.
I mean, there's all different kinds of energy. There's intelligent energy. There's residual energy. There's energy in the earth. So you can take on those emotions and those feelings from that. And usually, when I'm in an investigation and that's happening to me, I know for sure that those aren't my feelings. And so it actually is really helpful for me in an investigation. And it also helps me in I can actually communicate better with whoever or whatever is around me because I'm taking on their emotions.
Okay. So when you're going through, you said you can feel various types of energy, intelligent energy, negative energy, maybe. Have you ever encountered a really stupid ghost? Like someone who was really dumb?
Let me think about that. I won't say stupid. I've come across some pretty intelligent ones. I don't know if I've ever seen a stupid one.
Like
Maybe
one,
confused.
you hear a thud and then you just hear, oh shit,
Ouch.
afterwards.
If I ever got an EVP with that on it, I would die. I would just die. No, I haven't gotten anybody dumb, maybe confused.
Sure.
But
or maybe
dumb.
a little unsettled or unbalanced. You've had that before.
Yeah, I've had that before. I had one during an investigation that she was very, very confused and very guilt-ridden. It was in a sanatorium, an old sanatorium from the turn of the century, like the early 1900s. And her husband was the doctor and the owner of the sanatorium. And they had a 17-year-old child, a son, who died from the same illness, one of the same illnesses that they were trying to cure people of back then. And I believe I sort of took on everything. I could actually have a conversation with her just by feeling her emotions and her feelings. And I sort of had a conversation with her about it because she was very confused as to why she was still there. But by the same token, I figured out that she was so guilt-ridden because of the fact that she and her husband couldn't save her son, and they were the ones who were supposed to be, the healers, and they couldn't save their own son, and there was so much guilt there. She wasn't sure what she was doing. She was very confused. And I actually talked to her, and I explained the situation to her, and I told her she didn't have to be so confused anymore. And all of a sudden, it just sort of went away. So I don't know if I actually helped her cross or not, but she was very, very confused about what was going on and where she was and why she was still there.
So when you're watching the critically acclaimed movie Casper and they say, ghosts have unfinished business, so that there's some accuracy there, huh?
There is. Look, Casper.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
There he is. The greatest cameo with Dan Aykroyd. Yeah, that's a good part.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
Yeah.
I think that it can be that. I think that, and this is just my opinion, but I don't necessarily believe in ghosts. I believe in energy. I think that if something's left behind, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only place that person is. That energy could be here. It could be in 100 different places at the same time. So,
Totally agree.
Unfinished business. Sometimes they're there because something traumatic happened. Sometimes they're there because it was a large part of their life. I always think about pubs and restaurants, old restaurants that are haunted, and you wonder why that is. And it's because people who owned those restaurants lived and died by their work. I mean, it was so important to them, taking care of people and feeding them and all that. And so, of course, their energy is going to be left behind. If you're passionate about something in life, when you leave something behind. in some way, shape, or form. And energy is just like that.
That's why
It's
I
sorta
always said.
like-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Drew.
That's why I always said at my previous jobs, working in factories and stuff, and I said if anything goes down, I'm out of here. I'm not dying at work, because then my soul could be trapped
And
in
you're
a.
stuck at work.
It could be
for all
stuck
eternity.
in a stick of cheese. That would
Well,
have been.
and here's what's ironic about that. Maybe it will be anyway. You don't necessarily have that
That's true.
choice.
That's very
And
true.
you did spend time there. And
Yeah.
so there will always be a part of you in that location, whether you like that or not.
Yeah,
So-
I pooped in a place that I'll never find. So there's definitely a part of me there.
That is good to know.
Hey, thanks for sharing that with us.
I'm giving up cheese now for life.
I knew we were going to get around to cheese at some point. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think restaurants are interesting. Talk about unfinished business. I did one at a restaurant, an investigation at a restaurant about, what was it, Todd, like a year and a half ago, maybe?
Sure.
Year ago. And it was a couple. They were still there because they died in a fire on those grounds. The restaurant used to be a hotel in the 1800s to early 1900s. In 1919, there was a fire. Like, there were always fires back then because everything was wood.
Sure.
And he was out there for work. They lived in the Finger Lakes area of New York, but he was out there for work, and he was just one day from coming home, and she had traveled out there to spend the last day with him before they both returned home together. And there happened to be a fire that night in the hotel, and they were trapped and they died. And so they are still there. Now, I agree with Todd. I don't say ghost very often. I might say spirit occasionally, but for me, it's more energy. So I think Todd may be right. I think they may not always be there. They may be, though. They may be trapped there. They may have unfinished business. They have to be acknowledged. Something needs to happen for them to be released from that spot. I'm not sure, but it's just interesting. I think some of them just don't even realize they're dead, if
Right.
that makes sense. You know, they just don't know, especially with traumatic things that happen to them. They just don't even realize that they're gone.
Right. So with paranormal investigations, it's something that you both have done, and you can continue to do. What's in it for you? Like, why do you do it?
I think for me, it's really just like understanding that what we see on a daily basis, the things we encounter, the things we see, the people we talk to, the conversations we have, this is not all that there is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer that there is stuff going on around us all the time that we as human beings just cannot comprehend, and we can't take part in at this point. I've become, as I said, I don't necessarily believe in ghosts anymore, but I believe in energy. I've become a little bit more woo-woo in that, I actually have a belief that I could be here having this conversation with you, and another part of my energy could be someplace else doing something else, as another person, as another being, maybe another planet. I don't know,
that.
but I want to have a very open mind to this, because you grow up, and if you grow up with religion at all, you're told there's a God, there's a devil, there's, all that stuff. If you're willing to accept that, then I think you need to be able to be willing to accept the fact that we just don't really have a freaking clue about what goes on in our lives, other than the experiences we think we're having right this second. That's about it.
Okay.
There's so much going on in this world and outside of this world that we have absolutely no idea. We're so egocentric. We just believe that everything revolves around us. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not something we've done. It's just the way we are. Nobody wants to believe that there are aliens, because we want to believe that we're the highest power that there is out there. We're the most intelligent. We've got it all figured out. But maybe we don't. And, when I was growing up, I was always fascinated with the paranormal, always. And I always just wanted to be a ghost hunter because I thought it was cool when I was younger. And as I grew up and I evolved and I started to realize that I have these abilities and these gifts, it's really become very personal for me now. And it's sort of like I feel like I want to help in some way. I want to, whether it's helping these energies, whether it's helping myself understand me more or the world around me. and I'm right there with Todd. I just think there's so much out there that we don't understand, and I'm sort of on this quest. It's become my passion to sort of understand as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something, I've talked to Todd about it a lot. I want one of these experiences. And I am so like I'm not an empath. My wife would argue that I have no feelings. But
She's not the only one that would argue that, to be honest with you.
there's been moments where I've gotten choked up, and she's so when her and I got married, I got choked up saying my vows. And we wrote our own vows, and I had some zingers, and like unfortunately,
Sure.
the punchline didn't always hit because I was like, but yeah, and then we received some other news. I got a little choked up, didn't shed a tear, but I was a little choked up. So there is some feeling in me, and there is some passion and stuff like that. But in the world of the paranormal stuff, I'm very ignorant. I don't know anything about it. I've maybe have had weird experiences at my dad's old farm, but not really me, more everyone else except for me. And I don't know. I wanna experience
I was just
it.
like that too, though. I was the person that never had an experience their entire life. And then what happened was I joined a group of people, or I was around a group of people, and the energy within that group allowed me to then be more open to it.
Sure.
And that's when it really changed for me. It was nothing that I necessarily did. It was the fact that my energy came into contact with other people's energy, and that allowed me to have many experiences. So that helped me open up. And maybe that's all you need, is to be around the right people.
Maybe.
Drew, I'm going out to visit Todd again probably in June. If
She's really
you want
not.
to, yes, I am.
There's
if you
no
want to
trip
come,
planned.
if you want to come with us, then I'm sure we'll be doing a little bit of paranormal investigating along the way.
Yeah. June might be tricky. But yeah, we'll have to let you know.
Yeah, definitely.
These people don't know about that yet. One day.
Wonder why. You know something you don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. I would definitely be interested in it. And there's like there's a place in Fond du Lac here, the Galloway House. They're doing haunted tours this October. I think it's like 2 hours. I might do that. I don't know what it all involves. I don't know if it's just like a tour at night and kind of just hang out, see and feel it. So maybe I could dip my toes a little bit in that realm.
You know what, Drew, though? The bottom line is, as long as you're open to the idea of an experience.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? I don't think I know a lot of people who aren't empaths, who don't have maybe psychic or medium abilities, but they just love to go out and do a little ghost hunting, and they've had experiences.
The weirdest thing,
just gotta be open to it.
Yeah, the weirdest thing is, I grew up on a farm. My dad owned a farm that was built in early or either late 1800s, early 1900s, and at one point we had rented out the upstairs to some people that he knew they needed a place to live. So, and the upstairs had, it was like an apartment up there, pretty much 2-bedroom apartment. But they had some weird encounters, and they brought a medium there who said it was a portal to and from the afterlife, or like the afterworld. And it's like we were there for a long time, and I never experienced any weird shit. I mean, there was times where I was like creeped out because I was there. If I was there by myself, my dad was on vacation, my sister moved out, so I was taking care of all the stupid goats and everything like that.
Not ghosts. You were taking care of goats.
Goats.
Okay.
Yeah, baba. And
Instead of boo boo.
Yeah. And it was there's times where I was like uneasy, but I think I was just scared.
But you know what? That happened in my house too, Drew. I mean, I lived in a house for a number of years, and I had somebody living upstairs in an apartment-like situation who just constantly said, "Oh, there's always something going on in this house. What's all the noise downstairs?" And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. What's going on? And what changed all that for me was having a friend come over who was a little bit more open than I was at the time.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, that person was having a conversation with an energy in the house, and then that opened it up for me to experience more things in that house. So I was in the same situation where somebody was telling me there's all this stuff going on. I'm like, you're nuts, you're crazy, you're wacko. And then come to find out, they were right on.
Interesting. Yeah, we think there's some funky stuff going on in this house every once in a while, but nothing too bad
come
so far.
on. I've got my equipment.
Yeah,
you
you-
always tell me
Yeah.
about these. He always tells me about these haunted places
You can come
and
here.
then never invites me along. I've got my little
True.
backpack full of stuff ready to go.
You can come over anytime you want, Todd.
All right, well, make sure your wife knows that because I don't want
See,
to get
when I-
stopped at the door.
When I was out there last month, we could have all gone to Drew's house. Instead of going out for brewskis, we could have all just gone to Drew's house and ghost hunted.
You
Yeah.
were well. There could have been brewskis at the house too, but you were getting the
That's
true
true.
Wisconsin experience. You got to go to the breweries.
Yeah, that was so much fun that night. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. I enjoyed it, and yeah, you know what? Like the weirdest thing you mentioned the Oshkosh Theater. So that night we drove by it on our way to the brewery, and like I don't think I ever really realized, like, hey, there's a theater there. Like people perform and come and do stuff there, and yeah, it's a sweet building. And then it was just weird that you said you went there and you felt it vibrating.
Yeah.
I would have thought there was an earthquake happening had I felt that.
Well, and remember, that's a location that we had investigated a couple of years ago and had a huge experience there. And I think at this point I can tell the story, and if I get sued for it, I get sued. But we had gone to investigate, and we had some stuff going on. The theater's very, very old. It's one of the oldest original theaters in Wisconsin that's still standing. It's an opera house is what it is. And at the very end of the night, we were all kind of spent and we were ready to wrap up, and we were sitting on the stage. And all the members of the cast and the investigators were on the stage. We said, we're going to wrap up here. You know, can you do something to let us know you're here? And as we said that, the lights on the stage came up and then all the way back down. They turned on and then turned off. And some of us didn't catch it because, like me, for instance, I'm sitting there with my hand on my head on my hand, kind of like looking at the floor, and I see this light kind of happen. And all of a sudden, they're like, can you do that just one more time for us? The lights came up and went back down. And the interesting thing about it was, from where we were sitting on stage, the light board was way up in the balcony, at the very back side of the balcony. You could actually hear the switches turn on and turn off when that happened.
Ooh, I love that.
And then one of the cast members, first time they ever saw it, but they actually saw a shadow figure run from that booth. And they were so scared, they didn't run after it.
Yeah.
So that taught that person to always go after shadow figures, and we've caught some stuff because of that. But that was one of those experiences where you have a couple of things, you can almost blow it off and say, well, that could be this or it could be that. And then all of a sudden you have this grand ending to your investigation. You're like, well, that's all we needed to see. Thank you and good night, you know?
Yeah. And you can see that on Amazon Prime still, right?
Yeah, that was Haunted State Theater of Shadows.
Okay.
Yeah.
The documentary. So there's two
Documentary.
documentaries, one season of or maybe two. I don't know.
There's
show.
a season of Haunted State, and then there's a second season being worked on. I don't know when that'll come out, but
Okay. Are you on that too?
yeah.
Me?
At
Oh,
least
him?
her, she's not on it.
Not
She's
at
got
all.
she you know, because she doesn't like makeup and stuff. So they didn't want to have her in the film because it's hard to determine who's human and who's ghost at that point.
You know, keep it going. Keep it up.
Let me just tell you a
Keep it
quick
up.
story. I have to take control and just give her some hell for a second. So when you investigate, Drew, when you start to do this and you open up and you start, just be careful.
Oh, for sure.
Don't do stupid stuff. Like if there is a shadow, you can go after it, just don't walk into it, you know?
Sure.
Like, be very careful about
I knew this was coming.
She's the kind of person that will go walk into a mist. We went to the grave of Ed Gein when she was here in Wisconsin, and she was dancing on Augusta Gein's grave. I mean, just doing some of the craziest shit you could not pay me to do. So just be careful.
So when you were at Ed Gein's grave, did you have like the because you can connect and stuff like that? Did you get the sudden urge to like make a bowl out of a boob or
She wanted to make a nipple belt. Is
Yeah.
what she wanted to make. Yeah.
I was like, Todd, come here. No,
Show me your nipples.
show me your nipples. No, actually, I did connect with Augusta though,
Mhm.
pretty bad, pretty heavily. I actually put my hand on her stone, and got some really dark, strange feelings and emotions. It's sort of almost like a void.
sure?
Made me cry. I started crying. It wasn't out of sadness. I wasn't crying for Augusta. I think it was just like it was so void of emotion that it almost made me angry.
Sure.
And it was weird because I almost thought that it was just this weird thing that happened. And so I did it a second time and I started crying a second time. I think that's why he likes to make fun of me for dancing on her grave. But I was just so angry at that point that this
Listen,
energy
when I'm angry,
that was
the first
still
thing
there.
I want to do is doing, a little tap dance when I'm angry. That's the first
It
thing that
was,
comes to mind.
it was like, come on. But yeah, so that was a really interesting trip for us. Very, very interesting trip for us.
It sounds like a lot of exhaustion comes out of having these empathic or being an empath and having these abilities. So and maybe it's good that I lack the ability to feel because my day's stressful enough. I don't need to carry the burden of other people's shit on my shoulders.
It's
What I've
definitely
learned-
tough.
What I've learned is that if I don't stay busy, that's when I start to open up to other stuff.
Sure.
Mhm.
And so that's why I think I'm a workaholic, partly because of that. But on days that I've had time off, that's usually when I end up opening up and pulling something in that I didn't realize was there.
Yep.
So
Yep. You have to learn how to manage it. They call it compartmentalizing. You sort of have to learn, and Todd, neither one of us is really 100% there, but you have to sort of learn the difference between what you're feeling yourself personally and what you're taking on from, the world around you. And you have to kind of recognize it, set it aside, deal with it when you can, or if you want to deal with it. And it's really hard, but by the same token, it's also good to be able to help other people. Sometimes just being there for somebody when they need to talk. I have strangers, and Todd does too. We have strangers just come up to us out of the blue and start telling us their life story. And Dave and I were just before we went up to Oshkosh, we were staying in Chicago for a few days, and we went a little south to Midlothian, Illinois, where the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery is. It's a pretty well-known haunted cemetery.
Sure.
And we stopped for lunch, and the waitress just sort of came over and started telling me her whole story about the father of her kids and how long they've been together and all of these personal details. And she said, I don't know why I'm telling you all of this. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, I know, but are you really going to be happy you told me this after the fact? But sometimes people they need to talk about things. And that's what they do is they're drawn to people like Todd and I. So, if you can help them, I think it's great. I really do.
Or you can turn your back on them and make fun of them when they're not looking. That's usually what I try to do.
Yeah, one or the other, A or B.
My next challenge I want for you. So you go to these graveyards. I'd like you to go to Gigi Allen's grave. Do you know who Gigi Allen is?
I don't.
Oh, he's a horrible human being. He was Gigi Allen. He was a performer, a punk in punk bands, and he did a lot of like crazy shit on stage. He would throw fecal matter at the audience members. He would beat the crap out of people. So I just want you to go to his grave and see if you have the sudden urge to just drop trow and poo.
Oh, I might dance.
Yeah, she might dance while she's doing it. That'll be the interesting thing.
Where
Tap
is he
dance
buried?
I have no idea. But
just look it up and go.
yeah, you can find it. He's if you ever, I'm pretty sure there's some documentaries made about him. He was a horrible person.
Oh my God.
But it had a weird way of thinking. But I just wanted to make a joke.
That was a good joke.
It was good.
Didn't work.
That was
a
good.
good
Drew.
It didn't land at all.
No.
Unfortunately.
Little off the tarmac, but other than that,
Other than that,
But yeah, I mean, the paranormal stuff, it fascinates me, and I think it's interesting. How do you feel about, I've read recently that the house that inspired The Exorcist just sold, and the couple that bought it didn't even know that it was the house in which it's all based off of, the house that inspired the novel, which inspired the movie.
right.
How would you do something like that? Would you, if you hot buy in something, would you buy a house like that?
we've just had this conversation because also the house that was from The Conjuring is for sale right now for $1.2 million.
Oh yeah, pocket change.
Yeah, but I think here's the thing. Would I mind buying a house that had some energy in it, some spirits, whatever you want to call it? I would have no problem with that. Probably. I mean, it would really depend on what kind of energy is there.
Mm-hmm.
Would I go out of my way to purchase a home that was known to have quite evil energy in it? You would not catch me near that.
Yeah.
And I also, in some states, I don't know what state that was in, that the house from The Exorcist was in.
I don't
Is it
remember.
Maryland?
I think
it was
Maryland, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's some states where that has to be disclosed. People have to
Right.
know that a house is considered haunted or that somebody died in the house. There's different laws in each state for that kind of stuff.
I'm in New York, and it is the law. You have to disclose if your house is haunted in New York State.
Right.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So, I mean, if you buy it, here's the thing. Just because it was haunted back then doesn't mean there's energy there anymore. I mean, that all changes. People move out of their homes, so do energy comes and goes too.
And Todd, too, let's say that story is completely true. That boy was possessed. That doesn't necessarily mean that the house had activity in it.
Right.
That means that little boy had activity surrounding him, within him, however you want to say it. I think there's a difference between something like moving into a house that one specific person had problems, let alone, from the house, different from the house itself having issues.
Right.
And in the case of The Conjuring, Todd watches me get really angry, really pissed off about this one, because that whole house and the land around it is so
tainted.
Saturated.
Yeah.
With negativity and negative. I don't even know if demonic is out of the question. Such bad energy that I don't think anybody should be in that house, to be honest with you, ever. I think that house should be preserved for its historical significance. I mean, John Smith, like Pocahontas's John Smith, was the one who actually surveyed the land. And I think he built the house. So it's historically extremely significant, but I don't think anybody should be in that house. That house is extremely active. And the people who are selling the house were literally ghost hunters. They bought that house to
do weekend trips, bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Sure.
For people looking for a thrill. There are a lot of haunted places that you could go for the night. I've stayed in plenty of them, believe me. I've traveled all over, that would give you an experience. But that's a far cry from going to the Conjuring house for a night or two and living through what could possibly happen there. So
yeah, and especially if John Smith built it, the last thing I want to hear is one of those fucking songs from Pocahontas,
oh my
in the
God,
background, painting with the colors of the wind.
Drew, listen, that's how they get you. John Smith and Pocahontas sing those songs off the soundtrack from the movie all night long.
That is a haunting experience.
It sure is.
I would think so. So you touched on, potential demonic energy, and Todd and I have spoken about it a little bit, but I'd like to get your take, Sandy.
Sure.
Do you believe in demonic entities, or is it just negative energy, or is it maybe misunderstood energy in which they're trying to convey a message, and they can only do it in certain ways, that it appears to us as evil, but maybe it's not?
I think that the term demonic gets thrown around way too easily these days. I do believe that it's possible. I really do. I've never come across it myself. I've barely come across negative energy. I've come across heavy energy. So that same restaurant that I was telling you about where the husband and wife were killed, down in the basement of that used to be a speakeasy during the 1920s. And when I walked in the back room, you could feel how heavy it was, because you figure there's all of that emotion. There's drunk people, there's dancing, there's music, there's fighting, there's sex, there's gambling. There's all kinds of things going on down there at one time. It was such a heavy feeling, a very heavy feeling down there. But I think that people have this propensity, especially with today's ghost hunting shows.
I was just
the
going to
sort
say,
of
blame the TV shows for
Sure.
that.
Well, yeah, but it's true. Like, they're so easy. Some of them are so easy to call something demonic, but we don't know that it's necessarily demonic. I don't know that it's as prevalent as some people like to make it out to be these days. And it's not just the TV shows, but I think we throw that term around really easily.
Yeah.
I think that there is negative spirits out there. There's negative energy out there.
There's negative
Intelligent.
people. There's
For
negative
sure.
people.
Negative people.
So, yeah.
And let's face it, if you're an ass in real life, you're probably going to be an ass in the afterlife. And, you're going to be mean and you're going to do nasty things to people and you're going to try and either harm or scare them. But does that make you demonic? No.
Okay.
So, that's just my take on it. I haven't come across anything that was overly negative or I think I will say this. Augusta Gein was probably the closest thing to evil that I have ever experienced.
I spilled.
She was pretty negative.
I didn't know why she was
what
bringing
was
you a
going
paper
on.
towel. I'm like, oh my God, the guy's got to be in adult diapers now or something. Poor Dave.
Sorry. I picked up my beer and the coaster was stuck on it, and then I went to put it down and it fell and it spilled. And
You're so lucky you have her.
I just texted her. I said, "Hey, I spilled."
Did you
texted
really?
her,
And
Yeah.
really?
I just saw her walk in the bathroom like an angel into the kitchen, and then she comes out with this paper towel, and I'm thinking, oh my God.
Oh my
I
God.
soiled myself.
Wow.
Oh, now she's in the other
Yeah.
room. That's,
So yeah, I guess I have. I mean, that was pretty evil feelings, but was
Sure.
was it demonic? Nah, it wasn't demonic. She's just a evil person.
yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's the one thing about the paranormal stuff, and you brought it up with the ghost hunting shows. I've watched a lot of Ghost Adventures just because I think it's funny the way they act or the way they react,
Yeah.
I should say. And it's like, how many times has Zach Baggins been possessed?
At least
It's-
twice every Saturday night.
Yeah.
I mean,
At
I swear to
least.
God, it happens
At
to him a
least.
lot.
Dave and I will sit there and we'll watch it, and Dave will call it perfectly. He'll be like, "Okay, this is the part where Zach's going to be influenced by something negative, and he's going to have to go sit down, or he's going to start acting really weird and call what's his face names." And Dave calls it perfectly. It's funny. That show is funny to me, and I actually enjoy watching it because it's when those guys started out. Their first their documentary
Yeah,
that they
I've seen
did
it.
when they were college students, that was really, really good. It was really well done. They were serious about it, and it was a very, very good documentary, and I really liked them. And then the first few seasons were sort of the same, in line with that, and then after season 4, forget it.
Yeah,
Then it turned into
what it is.
everybody's favorite person to make fun of,
Yeah.
Zach Bagans. But
I just like his-
I like the show.
His narration skills are just so horrible.
Oh my God.
And it's
oh my God.
over all these years, you'd think he'd get some coaching, so or they get somebody else to do it.
Well, I think they make so much money for the network. The network just puts up whatever they give them. Pretty
Yeah,
much, to be
I think
honest with
so.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, they've really they've turned into their own sort of cult figures. They're just
Mhm.
people love them, and I think that they're for what their show is. I think it's fantastic and it's really well done
Okay,
for what it is.
sure.
But
You
it's no different than going to a movie in my thought process. Going to a movie to scare yourself, like going to the movie and watching the Conjuring movie. Okay,
Mhm.
some of that was true. Some of what happened in that movie was true. A lot of it was created for cinema,
Right.
and you have to be able to walk away and go, "That's interesting. That was wild,"
Mm-hmm.
but also understand that it's not 100% real.
Right.
You know?
No.
Yeah. And speaking of movies, we're going to be talking about movies on your show on
Yes.
Thursday.
Yay! Yes.
A little sneak preview into that. I'm super excited about Halloween Kills coming out on the 15th. And I like the ability that I can watch it in my house on my couch on I think it's on Peacock. You can
That
order
is right.
it. I'm so excited.
Which one is this about? So she's back, right? The girl.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, yeah. So,
Yeah.
this is Danny McBride. He's a lot of people know him from comedy stuff. He's an actor, comedic actor. He wrote Halloween from a couple of years ago, and basically it erases all the other Halloween movies except for the original.
Thank God.
So this is like a direct
know.
this is like a direct sequel to the original Halloween, young Jamie Lee Curtis, and this is before anything was established about Michael Myers being her brother. So in this one, they dismiss that. They say, yeah, people say it was that he was her brother, but that's not true. So this is it's purely this crazed, deranged guy who is just killing people in this town, specifically targeting the person that he's never been able to kill. And it's
you know why I
awesome.
love it? Because I only watched one. I watched the first one and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched about half of the second one, did not like it,
I like
and
that
didn't
one.
watch any of them after that.
See, I actually think my favorite of all the Halloweens, and I like the traditional stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when it went off the rails and it became, Halloween H2O or what the hell it was,
Yeah.
I didn't
that
care
one.
for any of that. Rob Zombie, please step aside.
You didn't like Rob
Mhm.
Zombie ones?
No,
Oh, they're good.
No,
They're good.
You got to go all the way back to the original. I actually liked 2 better than 1.
I like 2. Yeah.
I thought 2 just had a little bit more suspense in it, and it had more movement to it. But those 2 movies were outstanding. And then you go on to Halloween 3.
Well, that has nothing to do with
Which-
Michael Myers. Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
in itself is one of the worst Halloween movies ever. And yet it's so good to watch.
I've never
and
seen
laugh
it.
at. Oh,
You
you've
know what?
never seen it?
No, I've only watched the
know-
Michael Myers ones.
You've got to watch that one movie
I will.
because it is so bad. You're going to be like, who kept their job after that?
You know
Who
what,
kept
though,
their
guys?
job?
Let me ask you this. How many movies, how many sequels, how many in the franchise, any franchise, do you think it takes before it really starts to go off kilter? Do you think 2 is okay? Or 3?
You know, they're making
and then
another
you sort of-
Scream, and I'm
Yeah.
pumped about it.
Yep.
I watched the trailer today, and I was like, yes. That's coming out in 2022. I have all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Not all of them are good.
Right.
Yeah.
The second one is okay. And then like it just gets into some weird stuff.
Yeah.
As far as like the Halloween movies go, because I really like Michael Myers. I really like those movies. The fourth and the fifth one are okay. Paul Rudd's in one of them. I don't remember which one, but yeah, like Todd said, H2O is pretty trash. Resurrection is horrible. But it's just I don't know, because the sequels, if you go so long, you're reaching many generations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I don't know.
It's
So
hard.
it's hard to
Let me
say.
ask you this. So Carrie, the movie Carrie, which I think came out in 1978 and starred Sissy Spacek. Of course, the book was from Stephen King.
Yep.
A very good movie, very cheesy. A lot of the Stephen King movies are just done very cheesily, but it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been remade like 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I just watched this past weekend the 2015 version of it, and then they played the original. And there's just no difference. The only difference between the 2 is the actors look different, and the new one had cell phones. That's
Okay.
about the only thing that was different. And I'm just thinking,
Why?
can you not, if you're a millennial, can you not connect to the 1978 movie because there were still phones on the wall in the kitchen with
Maybe.
the long cords?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Maybe.
Is that what it is?
I don't know, or it's just
sad.
kid. It's not like I won't watch some movies because they're old, because I just let them go.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in it, unless I'm like watching it for like a cinematic purpose or because I learned to appreciate it or something over time. The first Child's Play movie I saw, or Chucky movie I saw, was The Bride of Chucky, because it was made when I was younger. I didn't watch any of the other ones because they were old. And one thing I liked about the Rob Zombie Halloween movies was that it was so different than the original ones. The one things I do admire about, especially the Danny McBride ones, there's some gore in it, but it's not like grotesque gore. It's
Right.
a lot of times it's just you see the after effect. You
Yeah.
don't see like the killing per se, which I was like, that's awesome. And if you can pull that off, I give the filmmakers a lot of credit.
True.
But with like the Halloween that Rob Zombie made, it was gore. The first one gives a big backstory and you learn a lot about childhood for Michael Myers. and it's I don't know if you ever watched them, Todd or Sandy, but I really liked them, and I thought they were good. And then the second one was its completely own film. It didn't follow. It kind of like gave a paid homage to the hospital stuff right in the beginning, but then it was done. And then it did its
for
own
me,
thing.
I can't. There's so much going on. I can't keep track.
Sure.
And the same thing kind of happened to me with Harry Potter. There's all these words like expecto patronum and stuff. At some point, I have to believe what I'm seeing, even if it is fantasy. And if I can't keep track of it, I'm gone. If I can't keep track
I
of
agree.
all
I'm
that
the
stuff.
same way.
So
So
Carissa and I have an endless debate about Harry Potter, specifically the Goblet of no, not the Goblet of Fire. Order of the Phoenix. I don't know, one of them, where like Hermione's always going back in time, and that's how she can be in like two classes at one time, and then they use that ability to go back, and that's when he sees his fucking deer.
Patronum.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm always saying, I was like, well, then there should be like a million Harry Potters, because it just is an endless cycle. And she disagrees. I was like, how can it just like, I was like, so at one point there should be like 6 Harry Potters in one area. And she says I'm wrong. And I was like, well, the timeline, like it doesn't matter what happens in the future, because there's always that endless loop going on.
Well, see, and then this will come back to energies and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. It's Harry Potter.
I'm just saying, I just wonder about, when you have that little bit of deja vu, or you have that inkling that something's going to happen or that it happened, is time real, or is it just something that we've kind of created, and there's all these different timelines? And one of the episodes of Ghost Hunters early on, I don't remember where they went, but they went to a mansion, and there was a princess who lived there, and she had a bedroom, and they were investigating in the bedroom, and they were doing an EVP session, and they're like, "Princess, are you here with us?" And they keep asking the same questions. Can you hear us? Can you see us? That kind of stuff. And then you go back and you listen to the EVP, and all of a sudden there's this voice. Of course I can hear you. Where are you? That's the response they're getting from their questions. So then you start thinking, okay, is that a spirit? Is that energy? Is that a different timeline in that same location where this woman's actually living?
Sure.
And she's experiencing them as paranormal activity.
Yeah. That'd be a good movie.
That's
one of my favorite. I love the ideas. There are actually scientifically proven things like wormholes and, parallel universes. And there are things that science can actually confirm are going on. And one of my favorite theories, though.
Wasn't wormhole the nickname you had in high school?
No. Oh, my God.
My
Drew,
dogs have had worms
laugh
before.
At him. Do not. You know what? Stop laughing at him.
That was funny. So good. I almost spit out my water.
But there is one of
wormhole.
There she goes.
My favorite theories.
Old wormhole.
I hate you both. One of my favorite theories is that we're sort of ghosts are actually. The veil becomes, how they say the veil between now and the past, it becomes so thin that when we see a ghost, it's actually someone living on the other side of the veil in our own home, in our own, wherever we happen to be at that time. There was a movie I watched one time of this girl that looked into her dining room and saw a family from, the 50s all sitting down to have dinner in her dining room. And she couldn't figure out what it was. Were they ghosts? What were they? And so the idea is that the veil becomes so thin that what we think are ghosts are not really ghosts. They're people living their lives in a parallel universe.
Well, it's kind of like The Others, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. What a great movie.
Very much so. Yeah, we were just talking about that movie. Great movie.
Yeah. You never saw that ending.
You never saw the ending?
Saw that movie?
Coming. I never saw it coming.
No, exactly.
No, not at all.
Well, that and Sixth Sense was the same way.
Yep.
I mean, I had no idea
Sixth Sense.
that the guy was going to be dead.
I didn't even get it
Spoiler.
until I had to watch it a second time. I'm kind of ashamed
Slow.
to say. I had
That's
to watch
why they
it
called
twice.
you Wormhole back in the day.
Shut up.
Haley
Oh
Joel
my God.
Osment goes from The Sixth Sense to making Tusk. You ever see Tusk?
Yeah.
No.
Nope.
Oh, it's about it's a really good movie. It's a really weird movie. So Justin Long's in it, but Justin Long gets abducted and gets medically turned into a walrus.
What the
walrus?
hell?
It's a Kevin Smith movie. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh,
well,
God. Well,
okay,
there
that
you go.
explains it.
Why
That
don't you
explains it.
have our friend Lisa on and you can talk to her about that?
Oh,
crap.
my
You know,
gosh.
I thought
You
she'd
guys
be.
can talk about that Thursday
We did
night.
talk about it. We talked about it when we were at
At the bar.
out for dinner. Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
about.
Are you kidding me?
We
You
talked
two
about Kevin
talked
Smith.
about that?
Yeah, I thought she was gonna look deeply into my eyes a little more, but she didn't. She only does that on
Aw.
the internet.
Well, I
Aw.
think her husband was there. Your wife was there. It's kind of difficult to
Yeah.
really do that.
Yeah.
You know.
You know how it
You know.
goes. You know.
Well, Sandy, Todd, I really appreciate you coming on. You have your podcast, the Sandy and Toddcast, that you can get on any platform, or at least the ones that I signed you up for when I set
Yeah,
up your.
thank you for
Thanks,
doing all that,
thanks
by the
for
way.
doing that.
Also, so and you have a Facebook group. Yeah, plug that a little bit so people can join and watch
Yeah.
your live casts.
Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast. It's a really safe space, a good platform for people to come and share their thoughts and feelings and questions and ideas without getting judged or,
Yeah.
made fun of. And it's a really great group. And then we have our page, the Sandy and Toddcast. And Todd and I just started a new podcast called the Empathic podcast, all about
Oh.
empaths.
Oh, really? Okay. So I
Yeah.
saw that you post that. I hadn't listened to it, but I didn't realize it was the both of you doing another thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, we stay busy, kind of
Yeah.
branching out.
I have so many
So-
podcast ideas, and I just so little time and money.
And we're lucky. We kind of branch everything under. We sort of have a media group that we branch
Yeah.
everything under. So
We stole that idea from him. Everything that I do is because of Drew. So
That's not true.
yeah.
Uh,
In fact, I'm gonna have a T-shirt that says that.
That's
Everything I do is because of Drew.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be a
Aw.
good T-shirt. No, yeah. Todd and I went back. We became Facebook friends. I think it was just because we both worked for the radio station,
Right.
the local one, and then the first time I ever met you was to record an episode of this show.
Yeah,
but
the Halloween one, right?
Yep. So, but we had talked a lot about podcasts and doing all that kind of stuff. And I had this when I first started doing this, I was like, I got this big ass idea. I want to have, this umbrella with all these creative people. Everybody has full control of their shows, but it's like we support each other, we promote each other. And then I had a couple people join it, and then it's just me now. That's fine.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I hope that we're part of your family.
Oh, for sure.
We
Yeah.
feel like you're part of ours. So
Absolutely.
yeah, without a doubt.
I
What do we
think-
call it? The Soul Tribe.
Yeah, I think what you do here with the live cast, I think that's awesome, and that's something I need to look into. I just need to be better about scheduling stuff, holding myself accountable for it. Rob doesn't live here anymore; he's in Michigan. I mean, it's not impossible for us to record anymore, but we're both very busy, so it just gets to be a lot, and I feel bad that he gets left out of a lot of these interviews, but this is how it goes.
Hard.
Mhm.
It's hard. We started out not having a clue as to what we truly wanted to do. It started out sort of me just wanting to resurrect an old podcast that I used to do.
Sure.
And I only did like 5 episodes of that. And so then I said, well, Todd, why don't you do it with me? 'Cause I didn't want to just do it by myself. We still didn't know what we were going to do for sure, but then it turned into all of this, and we're having a ball.
Yeah,
with
it's
it,
awesome.
So
Yeah, and
you never know.
the Facebook page is awesome. Your live cast I like a lot. A lot of times I'll be laying on the couch watching them and then I'll fall asleep. But at least you're
Thank
listening.
you.
You're
Thank you.
Thanks
very
for
much.
that, Drew.
not
Thank you.
because of the content, just because I'm tired. And but your viewership, it stays the same because my phone's still on.
That's good.
So
We
you're
appreciate-
welcome.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
But if I don't listen to the or if I don't watch them all the way through, I do listen to them on my now significantly shorter commute to work. And
Yeah, that's one thing that we like is that we're able to bring people we call them the live casts, the video,
mhm.
but you can watch it at any point in time. You can always go back and watch it, or we just do audio too. So you've got one or the other, whatever, some people prefer one over the other, some like both, but we just have a blast with it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and listen to the Sandy and Toddcast, watch their stuff, and listen to their other podcasts that they have going on. It's a lot of very interesting and cool stuff. If you're into they have Tarot Tuesdays, they have the Woo Woo Wednesdays, they got the Thirsty Thursdays. They really got a variety show, and it's awesome, and it's got a lot of good content. I've learned a lot of stuff I'm gonna buy a pendulum and see how my pendulum
Ooh,
swings.
Don't even
Look,
bring that
Drew.
up. I've got mine
I
right
have my
here.
pendulum.
There it
We were
is.
just using ours the other night.
I'm gonna buy those truck nuts.
Ooh,
See.
perfect.
That would be
Perfect.
perfect.
If you ever
Perfect.
have like a good solid 20 minutes that you want to kill, look up the history of truck nuts and the controversy that it created a war between two people. It's insane.
Really?
God.
Truck
Okay.
testicles. Yes.
All right.
So yeah,
Ah,
it's a
Dear
weird
Lord.
it's a weird thing. But
right.
thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you Thursday.
Thank you.
yeah. Thanks, Drew. It was fun.
Pew pew! Audio. Goodbye, everyone!